Hi guys, my name's Seb Tudor, I'm the man on the Silver Mountain, and welcome back. Now today I want to talk about something that's kind of been closer to home for me, I guess, the last couple of weeks, simply because I've started doing some bits and pieces outside of just coaching and just doing these videos for you guys, and as a result it's essentially a new job. It's a new way of ensuring my security and being able to do more in the long run for you guys as well as for myself and all that kind of thing. But there's something that I've talked to a lot of clients about, a lot of people about generally, and it's something that now is again more prevalent in my life, and that is the time it takes to get used to a new environment, especially a new working environment, considering that there are an awful lot of stipulations put on you, awful lot of new kind of moving parts in your life that you need to kind of take into account and work with. And so as a result, I wanted to just have a quick chat about this, and then also just provide a few points here, just 5 points on how you can make your transition into that new environment that little bit more simple, that little bit easier on you. But anyway, first off, when it comes to moving into a new environment, people take to it in different ways. Some people will jump into it because it is a new environment, it's something new, it's something fun, and they gravitate towards that. Some people will have a little bit of a panic and they'll have a really awkward time. Some people just kind of cruise in, and then it only hits them after they've been there for a little while that this is their new normal. On average, from various bits and pieces of data that I've seen over the last God knows how long, it tends to take around a month to develop new, better habits. Obviously, we've talked about habits before, but when it comes to adjusting to a new work environment with new people and new happenstances and all that kind of thing, it tends to be about 6 months. And this is where I kind of draw issue with the whole kind of 3 to 6 month probationary period side of things, because you can demonstrate your ability very, very fast. You can demonstrate your ability, you can complete training in a very, very high speed, which should quite happily tick the boxes for things like probationary periods, for whether or not you are going to be capable of fulfilling the task. But it seems very unfair to do more than just that, to judge people excessively in that period when otherwise you're not used to the place. And so I feel like either you should have a 6 month review as your probationary benchmark, rather than a long-winded probationary period where potentially your capacity to earn money, your capacity to take advantage of benefits and things like that are kind of trimmed back because their uncertainty around you is apparently so major. But there are arguments either way on that, and I won't get into it too much more here. But as a result, though, it can be tough. It can be long and drawn out. I tend to take to new places personally fairly quickly, mostly because there are a lot of places that I've worked or things that I've done, especially through coaching, whereby the kind of baseline, there are so many things that are the same regardless of where I go and what I do. Or at the very least, I've got a good amount of background knowledge on everything that's there so that I can kind of twist and apply, and it just takes me some time to get it all lined up more neatly in my head with the old information that I have and the new kind of situation that I'm in. As soon as I've reached that kind of level of understanding, that level of kind of balance between those two things, I find that I tend to be okay, and that doesn't tend to take me that long. But obviously that's not the case for everybody, and that's one of the reasons, and it also wasn't the case for me very early on when I was first joining the workforce and all the rest of it. And this is where I want to go and just throw in these 5 points here for you guys, especially if you're going and starting your first job or moving from one job to another where you've been one place for a long time and now this is something completely new. So the first thing is, give yourself reasonable expectations. We've talked about expectations before. I'm going to be talking about them again this week. But ultimately, giving yourself reasonable expectations, realistic expectations. You are not going to be able to suddenly be awesome within the first week. There is a thing that a lot of people do where they were great at their last job, and even though they've moved into this new job, it might be very similar, it might be very different, but they expect themselves to be very, very awesome very, very capable, and just as much of a badass as they were in their last job in this new one. And now that kind of self-assuredness is good, but at the same time, when you find that that isn't the case, a lot of people then get demoralized. You have lots of people leaving very quickly for those kind of reasons, or feeling trapped. And whilst, I can see why, it's more a case of, making sure that you realize that it's going to take you some time. You've got training to do. You've got people to get used to. You've got an environment to get used to. You've got to get acclimatized to the kind of situation you are in now. Be reasonable with yourself. Especially if you're moving into a, say, customer service based role. You are going to be dealing with an awful lot of people every day. They are going to throw all kinds of curveballs at you. You are going to take some time to get used to, at the very least, getting out of the way of those curveballs, if not just catching them and dealing with them directly. Give yourself some time. Be reasonable and realistic in your expectations. Now, the next one that also kind of ties into that's kind of self-assuredness angle is, don't sell yourself short. You can joke around, you can be self-deprecating, but don't just go, I can't do it. No, don't say I'm not capable. I'm not good enough now that I'm here and I'm doing badly, or now that I'm here and I'm not doing as well as I did in my last job. I'm obviously terrible. Don't do that. It all ties into giving yourself that little bit of extra time. But when it comes to the not selling yourself short bit, it's more important to avoid that kind of negative, self-imposed negativity and self-directed negativity, just because after a while, if you keep saying it enough, you're probably going to start believing it. You're going to demoralize yourself. You're going to cause yourself more problems, because you're not going to have the energy to throw into actually doing the job, getting better at it, getting used to it, all that kind of thing. You're kind of just going to get stuck, and getting stuck is definitely not what you want to do when you've only just started. So keep the negative self descriptions and things like that, more to the realm of joking at the very most, rather than anything else. The next one, and this is a crazy important one, this is one that I make use of a lot, is that especially when you're in a new place and you're getting used to things, sometimes a lot of stuff can get on top of you. Sometimes because you're going one way in your head, but your body needs to go and do something over there, you miss things. And so asking questions, checking in with people, getting to know your new team and bouncing ideas off them, working along with them, that's so useful. Check in with people, check in with both, not just people who are there to train you and tell you what to do and all that kind of thing, but check in with people at the same level as you. Check in with people who are below you. Everyone's that's been there longer than you have is going to have some nugget of wisdom or knowledge or information in one form or another that will then help you just take that stuff on board and use it. It doesn't always necessarily have to be the long conversations with people or long review sessions or anything like that, but it has to be you listening to what other people are saying, going when you have a question, when you have something you're not sure about, when you have something you're feeling bad about. Go and check in with those other people. As long as you're not wandering in and going, yeah, I feel terrible about this whole place, I kind of want to burn it to the ground. As long as you're not walking in and saying stuff like that, as long as it's more, say, I know we did this the other day, I'm having difficulty with it, my brain's just not with it, can we sit down and go over it again? Something weird has happened, does this happen often? All just simple, easy, either yes, no, or short conversations, short descriptive conversations, stuff like that. Just checking in and making sure that everyone's feeling okay, that everything's going okay. Is today as busy as it should be? Is this very busy? Is this not busy at all? What can I expect? What's expected of us? Is there any way to do this that's better than what I'm doing at the moment? All of those kind of things, really useful, really helpful, and you just need to to have just a little bit of courage to go and have those conversations, to go and ask those questions, talk to those people. Now the next two have kind of a lot more to do with kind of getting to work, to being in that place. Now, the first one is most people have to travel at least some distance to work, whether it's a short walk or a long train journey or whatever else, long trip in the car, some kind of commute. It's time that you shouldn't just waste. You've got a whole day ahead of you, and especially if you're in a new environment, you have things that you can think over, that you can work on, that you can break down. And, the stuff to consider there, what is it that you've got to do? What's your to-do list? How are you going to interact with the other members of your team? Are there any things that you need to specifically ask certain members of that team? Lots of people dread the commute. They don't want to travel. They don't want to get into the middle of stuff. But to begin with, early on, use that time to plan out your day, use that time to get on board with things, to make sure that you're kind of, you've got a bit of a plan, bit of a structure of your own devising to your day, because that also makes it easier for you to buy into doing that stuff that day. But also, after you're used to the place and everything's become second nature to you and all the rest of it, just don't waste the time. Actually spend time learning, picking up information, doing more stuff, listening to music or watching stuff that you've not been able to if you're not driving, obviously. Make sure that you make good use of the time for you, regardless of what that actually means. Be that a self-betterment thing, a self-care thing, or whatever it is that you need to get done. Early on, use it to plan out your day, use it to make sure that you're on board with what you're doing and you know what you're supposed to be doing or how you want to do it. And then later on, after you don't need to do that every day because you're used to your new environment, use that time for something else. Use that time to build yourself up in a different way. And then the last one, and this is something that I quite enjoy doing personally, and that is, get in early. And even if you're not a morning person, even if you're not someone, or if you're working odd shifts or whatever else, try and get in early. Try and just settle into being in the place, rather than not. If you turn up just as you're supposed to be opening, or just as you're supposed to be kind of hitting the limit of when your boss would kick you in the balls or give you a quick smack for not getting there on time, you're not in a good fit state. There's been no transition, no settling in period on that day. You just rock up and you're expected to jump head first in. Try not to do that. Have a little bit of time, especially if you're like me, and when it gets to going somewhere, I tend to walk most places, and so I'll wander in. I'll have one set of clothes to walk in, and then I've got the clothes that I'm going to be wearing to work in, and so as a result, you just get there a tad early, set things up, sort things out, and then you take a couple of moments out just to get changed. It's that getting ready, slowly building into just getting comfortable in the place, getting used to the place, and feeling more comfortable there. That's the thing. And you, especially when you've got a lot of people working around you, a bustling office, a busy shop, whatever else, it can be hard to feel comfortable because there's so much going on, which again, getting there a bit early, just settling into the environment, getting used to where things are, all that kind of stuff can be useful. Obviously, maybe not as useful to you if you're rocking up, you don't have keys to get in, you have no way of gaining entry, and so you're left stood outside. Maybe don't turn up too much earlier at that point, but it's just that way of settling in that little more easily to the place rather than the goings on. But anyway, guys, I'd love to hear if there are any other things that you would add to this list, other things that you've done that help you just kind of settle into that new place that you've started working, that new thing that you've started doing, that new time, or the thing that's taking up your time. Leave those down in the comments. I'm sure I'd be interested to read through those. I'm sure they will probably be useful to other people as well that are in similar situations to yourself. But otherwise, thank you very much for watching, guys, and I will see you in the video later. Take care. Thank you very much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video or found it interesting, please drop us a like, share this video, and subscribe for more. And I'll see you in the video later. Take care.